I think Thursday's episode of General Hospital is setting up several major conflicts, and some of these storylines could become much more dangerous before they're over. From Emma Scorpio Drake worrying about Gio Palmieri, to Willow Kane realizing Michael Corinthos may finally have enough evidence against her, there's a lot of tension building. Emma will share some upsetting concerns with Anna Devane. Since Gio has been too busy with his music career to go camping or make other plans with Emma, she may start wondering if their relationship is in serious trouble. I could see Emma convincing herself that Gio's new recording deal is slowly pushing them apart. Anna may try to calm her down and remind Emma that Gio's career is going through a major transition. Perhaps Anna will encourage her to give Gio some time and suggest that once he settles into this new chapter, they can find their balance again. To me, Emma's fears may be understandable, but she could also be jumping to the worst possible conclusion. Meanwhile, Britt Westbourne will have a conversation with Rocco Falconeri, and I'm wondering if that could give Britt another perspective on the family drama surrounding them. Britt may also open up about her ongoing issues with Anna. Anna, however, appears ready to move forward with the trap involving Peter August. She may bring Britt into the early stages of the plan, which could make Britt far more involved than she realizes. I'm not sure Anna understands just how dangerous this setup could become once everything starts moving. Elsewhere, Stella Henry and Marshall Ashford will discuss their fears about Curtis Ashford's trial. If Curtis is found not guilty, he could potentially try to keep Isaiah Gannon away from the baby, something that could put him directly at odds with Portia Robinson. But Stella may have another fear entirely. She could worry that Curtis and Jordan Ashford will continue making risky decisions, while also fearing the possibility that Curtis could be sent to Pentonville. Curtis will finally learn the jury's decision when he returns to court for the verdict. Since Trina is also expected to face a major shock, I think there's a strong possibility Curtis will be found guilty. If that happens, Trina will have plenty to worry about when it comes to her family, including little Desmond Ashford. And with Jen Sidwell reportedly getting a surprising new cellmate, I'm wondering if Curtis could eventually find himself sharing a prison environment with him. As for Jocelyn Jacks, she still won't back down. She doesn't want the CEO position and remains determined to get back into the field as soon as possible. I think Jocelyn may be underestimating how difficult it will be to escape the responsibilities that are being pushed onto her. Then we get to the biggest confrontation of the episode. At the Quartermaine estate, Michael will confront Willow now that Trina and Kai Taylor have confirmed that they're convinced Willow was responsible for shooting Drew Kane. Michael will finally feel like he has the evidence he needs, and I can see him enjoying the fact that Willow is suddenly the one under pressure. His confrontation could leave Willow visibly nervous because she knows the situation has changed. This could be a major setback for Willow, but I don't think she's ready to surrender. In fact, General Hospital spoilers suggest Willow may be prepared to fight dirty against Michael. And if that's true, I'm wondering just how far she's willing to go to protect herself. Willow may have spent a long time trying to maintain control of the situation, but Michael now has momentum on his side. If she decides that playing fair is no longer an option, this family war could become much uglier very quickly. I may be wrong, but Thursday's episode feels like the beginning of another major turning point for Willow. Once both sides decide they have nothing left to lose, the consequences could be much bigger than either of them expects. I think Curtis took a major gamble when he rejected the plea deal and decided to fight his case in court. Unfortunately, that gamble may be about to backfire in a very serious way. It looks like a guilty verdict could be coming, which would leave Curtis facing a possible trip to Pentonville. What stands out to me is that Curtis hasn't really allowed himself to imagine prison as a real possibility, even though it has been hanging over him for quite some time. So, if the jury sides with Isaiah Gannon and Curtis is sentenced to prison, I think the news could hit him like a ton of bricks. Whatever his reasons were, Curtis still committed a serious crime, and the justice system may ultimately decide that punishment is necessary. If that happens, I can see Curtis being absolutely crushed, especially because this outcome could affect everyone closest to him. And honestly, the timing couldn't be worse. Curtis already lost precious opportunities with Trina Robinson because of Portia Robinson's paternity deception. Now, he was hoping to make up for lost time by enjoying those early moments with baby Desmond Ashford. If Curtis ends up behind bars, though, even something as simple as bonding with his infant son could be taken away from him. There's another reason I'm wondering if prison is almost a certainty. At a recent General Hospital fan event, Carlo Rhoda reportedly revealed that he has upcoming Pentonville scenes and teased that Sidwell's cellmate will be another familiar character. Since Curtis is currently the character facing the most obvious threat of incarceration, I think the pieces fit pretty well. If Curtis really does end up sharing a cell with Sidwell, that could create a fascinating new storyline. I wouldn't be surprised if these two men develop some kind of uneasy alliance. Of course, considering Sidwell's history, I'm not convinced Curtis would be wise to trust him. Still, a prison storyline could give Curtis an entirely different kind of conflict. I think a partnership between Curtis and Sidwell could lead to some unexpected schemes, dangerous decisions, and possibly a way for Curtis to fight his way back to his family. I could be wrong, but right now, it certainly feels like Curtis may be heading toward Pentonville. And if he does, his life could be turned upside down in a major way. What I find most interesting is what happens after Curtis gets there. Will he simply serve his time? Or could his connection with Sidwell pull him into something much bigger? General Hospital spoilers suggest Curtis is about to face some devastating consequences, and this could be the beginning of a very complicated chapter for him. I think Friday's General Hospital spoilers set up a pretty interesting chain of moves, especially for Tracy, Jason, and Danny. Tracy is about to receive a shocking request, and honestly, I'm wondering how long it will take before she goes from surprised to completely ferocious. Tracy usually doesn't stay stunned for very long. Once she understands what's being asked of her, I expect she'll have a very strong opinion about it. She already has enough on her plate with Drew no longer being locked up and potentially coming after the Quartermains. At the same time, she continues to support Brooklyn, while Brooklyn keeps the truth from Chase about her involvement in the night of Jordan's accident. With everything happening at Deception and Michael's situation with Willow, Tracy has plenty of reasons to be on edge. Jason's storyline may be even more emotional. He recently walked away from working for Sunny because he wants to be a better example for Danny. I think that decision is going to hit Jason harder than he expected. His relationship with Sunny has defined so much of his life, and even if their friendship survives, the transition is still going to hurt. That could explain why Jason opens up to Carly. I'm hoping this conversation goes deeper than simply talking about Sunny. Jason has been through a lot, especially during his time in that WSB prison in Jakarta, and I think Carly is one of the few people he might actually trust enough to tell the truth to. I'm also wondering whether Valentine or Carly's own complicated history will somehow enter the conversation. Meanwhile, Danny turns to Charlotte for help. To me, this pairing makes sense. Danny knows Charlotte is creative, and when she puts her mind to something, she can come up with plans other people wouldn't consider. If Danny wants to find a way to spend time with Scout, despite Drew refusing to change the rules, Charlotte may be exactly the person he needs. Of course, that could also lead Danny into trouble. His frustration might become stronger than his judgment, and I wouldn't be surprised if he decides the rules don't apply to him anymore. Then there's Brennan making an offer, while Molly suddenly has more breathing room now that Sidwell has taken a plea deal and is headed to prison for the foreseeable future. Molly apparently has an idea for Cody, and I think this could be important for their relationship. Maybe whatever Molly proposes will bring her and Cody closer. Or, considering this is General Hospital, maybe it will create an entirely new problem for both of them. Overall, I think Friday's episode could be less about one giant explosion and more about several characters making decisions that eventually create much bigger consequences. Tracy's shocking request, Jason finally opening up, Danny taking matters into his own hands, and Molly's new idea could all be setting up stories that become much more complicated in the days ahead. General Hospital spoilers suggest that a major disaster could be coming for Willow Kane, and I think Nina Reeves may have just given us an important clue about what's ahead. The feud between Willow and Michael Corinthos has been getting more intense, and the longer they refuse to find common ground, the more dangerous this situation could become. During the August 12th episode of GH, Nina warned Willow that things had gone way too far. She specifically raised the possibility that their ongoing conflict could escalate until something truly tragic happens. To me, that sounded less like a random warning and more like classic soap opera foreshadowing. Willow, however, wasn't interested in backing down. She believes she has the upper hand and plans to use it. She assured Nina that she wouldn't keep the children away from Michael, but she still wants to control when and how he spends time with them. The problem is that Michael may soon have a powerful new advantage. Trina Robinson and Kai Taylor revealed the ringtone information and confirmed to Michael that Willow was the one who pulled the trigger on Drew Kane. If Michael uses that information against his ex-wife, I think their already bitter feud could explode into something much worse. And that brings us back to Nina's ominous warning. If something truly tragic really is being foreshadowed, there are several possibilities. Willow, Michael, or even one of the children could end up caught in a life-threatening situation. I'm not saying that's definitely what will happen, but the storyline certainly seems to be moving in that direction. There's also another possibility that I think is worth considering. Jack Brennan. Brennan is reportedly heading toward a deadly exit this fall. So could Willow somehow become connected to his fate? Maybe Willow intends to hurt Michael but accidentally puts Brennan in danger instead. Or perhaps Brennan gets involved in the conflict at the wrong moment and ends up paying the ultimate price. That may sound like a wild theory, but on General Hospital, those kinds of twists are always possible. I think Nina's choice of words was deliberate. Her warning about something truly tragic could be setting the stage for a major turning point in Willow and Michael's war, and Brennan could potentially become an unexpected casualty. Of course, I could be completely wrong about who suffers the consequences, but if the writers are laying the groundwork for a disaster, I suspect this feud is about to become much more dangerous than either Willow or Michael realizes. Whatever happens, Willow may soon discover that being in control of the situation doesn't necessarily mean she can control the consequences. I think General Hospital just disappeared one of its most entertaining villains in the blink of an eye. Sidwell is off to Pentonville, and somehow we didn't even get to see it happen. Molly was all set to prosecute Sidwell. She even canceled her big book tour for the trial, only for the whole thing to disappear because Sidwell took a plea deal. And honestly, I was wondering, why would Sidwell ever agree to a plea deal? This is probably the most unlikely character to quietly accept responsibility and walk away without a fight. Sidwell would have loved the fanfare of a trial. He thrives on attention, confrontation, and chaos. Most importantly, he doesn't believe he did anything wrong. In Sidwell's mind, everything he did had a justification. He shot Lucas because he believed Lucas had killed Marco. There was always some twisted reason behind his madness. The outbursts, the dramatic faces, the unpredictable behavior. To me, those alone would have made a Sidwell trial worth watching. Yes, Sidwell was evil, but he was entertaining evil, and that's why it feels like such a missed opportunity. I also think taking a plea deal is completely out of character for him. Fighting is Sidwell's thing. If he was going down, I would have expected him to make sure everyone else was going down with him. There is no way I can imagine Sidwell willingly taking the blame for other people's crimes while protecting them. The first person he should have thrown under the bus was Willow. Sidwell knows she shot Drew and that she was responsible for putting him into his locked-in state. He was the one who helped make Willow a congresswoman, so I don't buy that he would simply allow himself to be hauled off to prison while Willow gets to sit pretty. And then there's Cullum. Sidwell knows Cullum was the mastermind behind Faison's final project. He also knows Cullum killed Marco. Even though Cullum is dead, I don't think Sidwell would have kept that information to himself. If anything, Sidwell would have wanted to destroy Cullum's reputation and expose the truth. There's no way he would willingly let the WSB remember Cullum as some kind of hero while Sidwell takes the fall. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think GH could have done so much more with Sidwell's exit. A character this loud, unpredictable, and entertaining deserved a much bigger send-off. Instead, he took a plea deal and disappeared into Pentonville almost quietly. And to me, that just doesn't feel like Sidwell. If he really had to go to prison, I would have rather seen him go down swinging, exposing secrets, dragging Willow into the mess, revealing Cullum's crimes, and turning his courtroom appearance into one final, spectacular disaster. That would have felt much more fitting for the character we watched all this time. Tuesday, August 12th, 2026, brings another round of shifting loyalties and emotional pressure in Port Charles. Sonny is preparing for a fight. Drew is determined to protect what he considers his, and Portia is caught between wanting justice for Curtis and fearing what his freedom could mean for her family. Meanwhile, Scout opens up to Rocco, and Willow makes a shocking accusation that could pull Gio even deeper into the chaos. At the Metro Court, Curtis meets Jordan for lunch. Jordan tells him about her recent conversation with Valentine and reveals that he mentioned saving her life. She had been hesitant to add another complication to his already complicated situation, but the two seem ready to put the past behind them. Their conversation turns to Sidwell's plea deal and Valentine's interest in purchasing some of Sidwell's holdings. Jordan admits that she could potentially make good money consulting for Valentine because of how much she already knows about the assets. She hasn't made a final decision, but it's clearly something she's considering. Meanwhile, Portia gets some encouraging news from Isaiah. Desmond is sleeping, and there appears to be no permanent damage to his hand. That means there is still hope that he could eventually perform surgery again. Portia and Isaiah embrace, relieved by the news, but the emotional complications surrounding Curtis remain. Isaiah needs to concentrate on rehabilitation, while Portia continues blaming herself for what happened to his hand. I think Portia's biggest problem right now is that she wants two things that may not be possible at the same time. She wants Curtis acquitted for the sake of her children, but she's also afraid of what happens if Curtis is free. She worries he could pressure her and even use the baby as leverage. Then Isaiah gets the call. The verdict is in. Over at the pool, Drew checks on Scout and immediately notices that something is bothering her. Scout admits that she's upset because she feels Drew refuses to listen to her. More importantly, she wants to see her brother. Drew understands what she wants, but he insists that he's doing what he believes is best for her. In his mind, Jason is a danger to his son, and Drew doesn't want Scout caught up in that world. Scout pushes back, reminding him that Danny also looks out for her. Drew acknowledges that, but he calls Danny's behavior reckless. Scout becomes emotional and starts crying. Drew then explains that he couldn't protect her while she was locked away, but now that she's with him, he can. That finally seems to calm Scout down. Later, Drew visits Jordan's table, and they're both happy to see that he is recovered. Drew makes it clear that he's ready to make up for lost time. But I think Drew's definition of making up for lost time could become a serious problem for almost everyone around him. At Sonny's place, Rocco opens up about Charlotte moving in with her father. He admits that part of him feels responsible because his mother is only trying to protect him. Rocco even wonders whether he relies too much on his parents. Sonny reassures him that needing help doesn't make him weak. He reminds Rocco that Dante comes to him for help too, and that everyone needs support sometimes. Rocco also admits that in a strange way, he's relieved Charlotte moved out. Sonny tells Rocco that he has good judgment, and even wishes he had possessed that kind of maturity at Rocco's age. Rocco thanks his grandfather before leaving. Then Rick arrives. Sonny and Rick discuss Sidwell's plea deal and the valuable assets that are now potentially up for grabs. Sonny has already identified a few things he wants. Rick points out that Drew has also shown interest. Since Drew has lost so much, Rick thinks he may be looking for something that belongs to him. Sonny sees it differently. To Sonny, Drew isn't simply looking for something to rebuild his life. Sonny believes Drew wants what Sonny considers his. And this is where things could get very interesting. Rick is amused when he learns that Jason has quit the business, but surprisingly, he isn't happy about it. Sonny then reveals that he is also stepping away from the business, saying he's doing it for his family. Rick congratulates him, but Sonny has another plan. He wants Rick to take Jason's place in certain areas. Rick isn't convinced he's the right person to serve as Sonny's human shield, but Sonny needs someone who will be completely honest with him. He then asks Rick how he can get everything he wants while making sure Drew gets nothing. I think that conversation may be more important than it initially appears. Sonny may be stepping away from the business, but that doesn't mean he's stepping away from the fight. At Bobby's, Kai asks Trina to go with him to the beach party. Trina turns him down and encourages him to go without her. Her mind is somewhere else entirely. Trina is consumed with worry about Curtis. She admits that she feels guilty for obsessing over her father because she also wants to live her own life. The pressure becomes so intense that she starts hyperventilating. Eventually, she breaks down and admits that she's terrified Curtis could go to prison. And then there's Gio, who happens to overhear something that could completely change his relationship with Willow and Michael. Willow tells Michael how upset she is about everything that has happened. Gio initially tries to leave, but Willow wants him to stay. She tells Gio that his girlfriend drugged her, and Willow says she has proof. That final revelation could put Gio in an extremely uncomfortable position. If Willow really has evidence, this may no longer be just another emotional argument between Michael and Willow. It could become something with serious consequences. I think Tuesday's episode is setting up several battles at once. Sonny versus Drew, Portia versus her own fears, Scout caught between the adults fighting over her family, and Willow preparing to expose what she believes happened to her. And if Willow really does have the proof she claims to have, Wednesday could get very messy very quickly. I think this entire situation is becoming more complicated by the minute, especially for Michael and Willow. Willow rattles on about taking Michael back to court and using her position to make sure she gets custody. Gio watches the two of them, clearly overwhelmed by everything he's hearing, before rushing out. Michael insists that he had nothing to do with Willow being drugged. He reminds her that she wasn't antagonistic toward him when they spoke. If anything, she admitted that she missed their friendship, and Michael says he misses it too. To me, that seems important because their problems haven't just affected them. They've been incredibly hard on the kids, especially Wiley. Michael says he wants to do better. Willow isn't convinced that he's being sincere, and honestly, I can understand why she would be skeptical. He gives her the rest of the week with the kids and asks her to think about everything before making any decisions. Gio later arrives at Bobby's and tells everyone about Willow's accusations that Michael and Jacinda drugged her. I'm wondering how far these accusations are going to spread now that other people are getting involved. Meanwhile, Drew meets with Martin at the Metro Court and makes it clear that he's interested in Sidwell's holdings. Drew believes Sonny wants his territory back, but he also knows that would mean the violence would continue. His preferred solution is to push Sonny out of town, although Drew knows that probably isn't going to happen easily. Martin reminds Drew that people have already ended up dead after crossing Sonny. Drew doesn't care. In fact, he seems more determined than ever to destroy Sonny completely. He says he won't stop until Sonny is a broken man. I think that obsession could eventually become Drew's biggest weakness. At the pool, Danny and Scout talk about how their parents are always making decisions to protect them, even when those decisions are frustrating. Scout hates that she can't see certain people and wishes she could have the freedom Danny and Charlotte seem to have. Rocco calls them selfish, but the conversation eventually turns toward swimming. Rocco offers to time Scout if she wants to swim, even though he knows he could get into trouble. He admits that he wishes he could swim too, so Scout solves the problem by pushing him straight into the pool. I have to admit, that felt like one of those lighter moments the kids desperately needed. Back at their table, Curtis thinks Jordan should be compensated for her consulting work. Jordan, however, wants to build something based entirely on her own accomplishments. Curtis is still hoping she'll eventually work for him, which makes Jordan question his motives, especially when he's still waiting to find out whether he could end up in prison. When Willow gets home, Nina is just finishing a phone call. Willow is surprised because she didn't know about a meeting that was supposed to happen that day. Jacinda normally tells Nina about her meetings, but she hasn't shown up. That becomes even more suspicious because Jacinda has access to all of Willow's computer passwords, and apparently nobody else knows them. Willow immediately assumes Jacinda skipped town because Michael paid her off. But Willow says it doesn't matter because she has Michael exactly where she wants him. She believes he knows he's beaten. Nina thinks Willow should focus on getting more time with the children rather than pushing the situation even further. Willow wants full control, but Nina worries that continuing down this road will only make everything escalate until somebody gets seriously hurt. I think Nina may be seeing something Willow refuses to acknowledge. This fight is already becoming dangerous. Then Trina and Kai arrive at the Quartermain mansion and confront Michael about whether he drugged Willow. Michael denies it. The two of them tell him they may be able to help prevent Willow from getting full custody. They reveal that they know Willow shot Drew because they were there. More importantly, they know details about what happened, including the ringtone Willow had assigned to Wiley. Michael immediately points out that there would be a record of him calling Willow after he shot Drew. Trina and Kai are prepared to go public with everything and expose the fact that Willow escaped consequences for attempted murder. Michael tells them that isn't necessary. Instead, he says he knows a better way to get them exactly what they want. And honestly, this is where I think things could take another major turn. Michael has spent so much time trying to keep his family from falling apart. But if he has decided there's a more strategic way to handle Willow, we may be about to see a very different side of him. Whether that plan protects his children or creates an even bigger disaster remains to be seen. Steve Burton is back in the tabloids this week as his ongoing legal battle with his ex-wife, Cherie Gustin, takes another turn. For years, the former couple's divorce and custody dispute has been closely followed by fans, especially because Burton is well known to General Hospital viewers for playing Jason Morgan. Now, their disagreement over their daughter Brooklyn appears to be getting even more complicated. Back in June, Burton filed court papers claiming that Gustin was creating unnecessary obstacles that prevented him from exercising his court-ordered custody. He also alleged that she repeatedly refused to allow his wife, Michelle Lundstrom, to pick up Brooklyn on his behalf. Naturally, many General Hospital fans rallied behind Burton after hearing those claims. But, as I always think when these kinds of custody disputes make headlines, there are usually two sides to every story. And now Cherie Gustin is making sure her side is heard. According to a new report from Us Weekly, Gustin claims that Burton's own choices are part of the problem. She reportedly argued in an August court filing that his relocation was the second time he had moved across the country without Brooklyn. That certainly changes the way the situation looks to me. Gustin reportedly said she signed a stipulation because she believed it was in their daughter's best interest. She also described herself as Brooklyn's stable parent and allegedly claimed that Burton does not currently have a legitimate home on the West Coast where their daughter can stay. If those claims are accurate, I can understand why this custody dispute is becoming so contentious. At the same time, Burton's earlier allegations paint a very different picture, so I think it's important not to assume that one side has the entire story. What stands out to me is that this appears to be much bigger than a simple disagreement over pickup arrangements. Both parents seem to have very different views about what is best for Brooklyn, and when those disagreements end up in court, things can become extremely messy. I was wondering if the latest filing might lead to an even bigger legal battle between the former spouses. Maybe this situation can eventually be resolved privately and peacefully, but based on everything being reported so far, it certainly looks like there is still a long way to go. And of course, as General Hospital fans, we can only hope that whatever happens next ultimately puts Brooklyn's well-being first. In a heartbreaking turn of events, Jacinda has left General Hospital, and I think Michael made a decision that was incredibly difficult, but from his perspective, necessary. He may care deeply about Jacinda, but when it comes to his children, Wiley and Amelia, they will always come first. The never-ending custody battle between Michael and Willow has just taken another dramatic turn. From the beginning, Willow has had a serious problem with Jacinda. She even used her power to get a restraining order against Michael's girlfriend, keeping Jacinda away from the children. I can understand why Jacinda felt angry and cornered, but I think she made a terrible mistake when she drugged Willow's iced coffee. Michael knew exactly how Willow would react. He also knew that once she discovered what Jacinda had done, she would likely use it against him in the custody battle. So, before things could get even worse, Michael ended his relationship with Jacinda and encouraged her to leave town. I was wondering if Michael really had any other choice. This clearly wasn't easy for him. He may have loved having Jacinda in his life, but he wasn't willing to risk losing his children over the relationship. To me, that says everything about where Michael's priorities are right now. He was willing to sacrifice his own happiness if it meant protecting his chances of keeping custody of Wiley and Amelia. And Michael knows Willow very well. He was right to assume that she would go on the warpath after discovering what Jacinda had done. Sure enough, shortly after the breakup, Willow stormed into the house, demanding full custody of the children. Willow came prepared with ammunition. She knew Jacinda had drugged her, and I think she was more than ready to turn that mistake into a weapon against Michael. What she didn't know was that Jacinda was already out of Michael's life. That was the part of Michael's plan that may have caught Willow off guard. By ending the relationship before Willow could fully exploit it, Michael removed one of her strongest arguments. He essentially showed that his children come first, even if protecting them means giving up someone he cares about. But here's where I think things could get complicated. Michael may believe his sacrifice was necessary, and honestly, I can understand his reasoning. However, by allowing Willow to influence such a major part of his personal life, he could also be giving her exactly what she wants: control. Willow already seems to believe she has the upper hand. If she realizes that Michael is willing to give up relationships and make major decisions simply to avoid provoking her in court, that could inflate her confidence even more. And that could become dangerous. I think Willow's own history and alleged crimes still need to be fully exposed. Until the truth comes out, she appears to have a major advantage in this custody battle. Michael may have protected his children for the moment, but I have to wonder whether sacrificing Jacinda was the beginning of a smart strategy, or the beginning of Willow gaining even more control over his life. I could be wrong, but to me, this custody war is far from over. And if Willow's secrets finally come to light, the entire balance of power could change. General Hospital spoilers and updates may have just given us a glimpse of what could be a much bigger story down the road. I think the show may be quietly laying the groundwork for Michael Corinthos and Willow Kane to find their way back to each other, even if that reunion is still a long way off. In the August 10th episode, Michael rushed to Willow's side after learning that Jacinda Bracken had drugged her. He was worried about Willow missing work calls and, more importantly, getting behind the wheel while she was impaired. So, Michael stepped in to make sure she was safe and that the kids were taken care of. What stood out to me was how strongly the episode emphasized their family dynamic. Michael promised to make up for the missed arcade trip by suggesting they all do something together. It felt almost like a reminder of the life these two once shared. And then there were those quieter moments between Michael and Willow. Because Willow was under the influence, we saw a softer and more vulnerable side of her. That seemed to remind Michael of the woman he once loved so deeply. At the same time, Willow seemed touched by Michael's nurturing side as he carefully tucked her in on the sofa. His voice had a tenderness that Willow apparently hadn't experienced in a very long time, and that opened the door to memories of happier days between them. I think that is where the chemistry becomes difficult to ignore. The connection between Willow and Michael, especially with Rory Gibson portraying Michael, is certainly there. But the show hasn't really been able to explore that chemistry to its full potential yet. When Gibson took over the role, Michael was already locked in conflict with Willow over her relationship with Drew Kane and the ongoing custody battle. From there, everything became increasingly complicated. Still, the August 11th episode offered another interesting glimpse at what a Michael and Willow reunion could potentially look like. There were moments when Willow seemed as though she might lean in and kiss Michael while she was under the influence. I have to admit, if that kiss had actually happened, it would have created an enormous amount of drama. But the writers deliberately stopped short of taking things that far. And maybe that was the point. Sometimes a soap opera will tease a romantic possibility without immediately acting on it. To me, that can be a way of keeping a future storyline alive without rushing it. Right now, though, a romantic reunion doesn't seem particularly likely. The custody battle is heating up again, especially after the truth surrounding Jacinda's drugging of Willow comes into play. Michael will also have help from Kai Taylor and Trina Robinson as he confronts Willow over what they know about her involvement in the shooting of Drew. So, there are plenty of obstacles standing between Michael and Willow. But I think the writers may have intentionally reminded viewers that the emotional connection between these two characters never completely disappeared. Could all of this eventually lead to Michael and Willow finding their way back to each other? Maybe. I could be wrong, but the recent scenes certainly make that possibility more interesting. The chemistry is there, the history is there, and now the show has started putting them back into emotionally intimate situations again. Of course, getting from this point to an actual reunion would require a lot of twists, betrayals, custody battles, and probably several more disasters along the way. Because this is General Hospital after all. For now, Michael and Willow remain deeply connected to the center of the drama. But if the writers really are planting seeds for a future reconciliation, I think these recent scenes could be the beginning of something much bigger. And if that happens, their reunion could be one of the more complicated and emotional love stories GH has waiting in the wings.